Hello and welcome to another Boonedox installation tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to install the Groovy landing gear using the flush mount rod holders as an access point. I'm showing this on an Old Town Sportsman since its alternative access is the hatch located all the way up front. That would be a lot of distance to cover, and on this particular kayak you would likely run into some wiring and cables that may cause you trouble. These rod holders are easily removed with a Phillips screwdriver, so it's the obvious choice here. To begin, go ahead and remove the flush mount rod holders with a Phillips screwdriver and set aside. The molding of this boat gave me essentially no flexibility for replacement of the Groovy landing gear, but the next thing you'll want to do is loosely assemble the knuckles, crossbar, and gussets in order to determine the exact placement on the boat. Keeping everything hand tight will allow you to adjust each piece and dial in the perfect location. Using the track nuts, flat washer, lock washer, and 1/4 button head cap screw, fasten the gussets into the knuckles. Arrange the knuckles where the set screws will be at the rear once you lay the assembly flat into position. Insert the crossbar and tighten the outermost set screw on one side about 1/2 inch from the crossbar. This will end up being the final position on that side, and you'll only have to make one cut on the crossbar later on. Using a fixed even point such as the seat frame as a registration point, find the ideal location for your Groovy landing gear with the gussets in place and hand tight. Mark the 5/16 holes with a permanent marker. You can check these marks against your backing plates to ensure alignment and make extra marks on the ends of the plates if you choose. Using the marks you made on the kayak as well as a tape measure, mark your stiffener patterns and cut the shape. Remove any rough plastic burrs with a sharp knife. Using the 5-inch stainless steel backing plate as a template, mark the holes for your stiffeners. Drill the holes out with a 3/8 drill bit and check against the marks on your kayak for alignment. One more optional check you can do before drilling is to go ahead and assemble the knuckle stiffeners and backing plate just to make sure the bolt threads in easily and doesn't hang up on the stiffener. If you find either of these to be the case, adjust accordingly. When you're ready, go ahead and drill the 3/8 inch hole straight down into your hull. You may want to drill a pilot hole with a smaller bit. Using a thin gauge wire, make a hook on the end that will easily pass through the 3/8 inch hole. Use a smaller but long enough bolt to pass through the backing plate, stiffener, and hull of the kayak. Once the backing plate and stiffeners are stacked onto the bolts, tie a piece of braided fishing line to the very end of the bolt. Make sure the knot you tie will pass through the hole when it's time to retrieve it. Tie another piece of line to the head of the bolt, long enough to pull it back through. Orient the assembly as it will bolt to the kayak. Fish the metal wire through the front hole and pull the end of the respective braided wire back through. Repeat for the rear bolt. With the slack pulled up, pass the assembly into the flush mount hole and pull the bolts up through the holes. Keep the slack so the line doesn't twist and cross. Once the bolts are all the way up through the holes, drop one back into the belly of the kayak and bolt an aluminum gusset in its place. Don't forget the washer. Repeat this step for the second aluminum gusset. Retrieve your bolts from inside the kayak and repeat this process on the other side. Now let's cut the spacer bar to length. Slide one end of the spacer bar into a knuckle with the set screws facing the rear and the groove in the bar facing up, about 1/2 inch past the outermost set screw on either side, and tighten the screw. Slide the opposite end into the second knuckle and position the assembly where it will be when the installation is complete. Once you've determined this position and the assembly is in place, tighten the outermost set screw on the other side. The set screws will create a small circular mark that you can use to create your cut line. It's only necessary to make one cut using this method. Measure 1/2 inch past the circular mark you made, and with a square, mark and cut your spacer bar. Loosely attach the knuckles using the 1/4 button cap screws, washers, and track nuts. Make sure they can still slide freely. Insert the spacer bar and fix it into place with the 4 set screws. Slide the entire knuckle assembly into its final place and tighten the 1/4 screws. Double check that all the bolts and screws are tight, then assemble the Groovy landing gear legs. Slide your wheel onto the leg and pin on each side. Insert the square top of the leg into the Groovy knuckle on each side, and now your Groovy landing gear is ready to get you on and off the water. We hope you enjoy your new Groovy landing gear, and please contact us at services@boonedoxusa.com or 336-475-4777 with any questions.